Okay. So, all right. So, April, I want to start with you a little bit, and I want you to basically describe the home environment that you came from, and as you were raising your children.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Up until Matthew was 8, it was just a very happy home. Matthew was a very intelligent little boy, a very happy, cheerful little boy.
You can put those pictures up anytime you like. There we go. Did you hear that, Matthew? Aw.
He was what many would call an easy child. He was a very obedient child, very eager to please. I don't ever remember, and I know this sounds maybe not believable, but it's just true. I don't remember ever having to punish him for disobeying because he would never intentionally disobey. He was just a very good boy. He was very close with his sister, his older sister. They were very best friends and playmates, and it was just a very happy home. Yeah.
Great. So when he got to be about 7 years old, something happened.
When the month after he turned 8 years old, our family's world was really turned upside down. Our daughter, who's almost 3 years older than Matthew, she had a medical crisis, severe pain in her back, never less than 8 on the 0 to 10 pain scale. This went on for 14 months. She wasn't able to walk or stand. She was in a wheelchair, and this was a chaotic, stressful time. I was always going to doctors. We live on an island off the coast of North Carolina, so doctors are always far away, any specialist, and she spent weeks in 3 different hospitals. I was with her. Matthew was at home with Daddy. He would bring him when he could, but he had to be there for school and work, and so it was just a very stressful, chaotic time. The pain was never relieved by even morphine. The doctors couldn't figure out what was causing it, and it was just a really, really stressful time. I spent lots of time online researching medical journals, trying to find the cause that was being undiagnosed on our end, so I was just doing a lot of research.
So April, did this last for just a couple weeks?
No, this was 14 months.
That's over a year.
Yeah.
So over a year that you're spending, weeks away with your daughter.
Yeah.
Tomek is at home, with Matthew in the evening, right? You're still working.
Yeah. And I knew during this time that Matthew was falling between the cracks. I couldn't surround it all. As much as I tried to not have him fall through the cracks, I knew he was. There's no way. I felt like we were in a ship that was going down, and I'm trying to hold on to both of my children and help my husband, and you're holding on the tightest to the one who's imminently about to drown, which was my daughter.
Right.
And you can't surround it all.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So it had to be very difficult to try to keep a balance, especially 14 months, long time.
Yeah.
All right. So during that time, we know that according to Matthew, in his story, there were interactions where he was being molested or abused by a friend or
in the middle of all of that chaos, unbeknownst to us, he was being repeatedly molested by another boy, and we never knew that until it had been going on for a while, and the boy had been threatening the safety of his parents. And being 9 years old, he didn't know that that's an empty threat. He was always very protective of his family, and so he just kept his mouth shut and suffered through that.
Sure.
While all the rest of this was going on. Yeah.
So Tomek, at this time when all of this chaos is going on in your home and you're taking care of your son, did you ever find out that he was having these situations with this kid?
No, there was a complete surprise for us. There was never mentioned. I never expected, because I assumed somebody, an adult, could do it, but we are in the small church situation, so there was no way we could, we could not see it. We could see it if something like that was happening.
Right.
But it was such a close-knit people, so there was completely surprised, and it was unknown to us until the moment it was discovered.
So when did you find out that Matthew had been victimized?
I don't know how much detail I can tell, not offending the other family, but basically from the other family.
Oh, you found out from the other family?
Yes, they
Okay.
came to us and told us that something
And
was not
what
going
was, as a family, what was your reaction?
on. Oh. It's again a difficult question. I don't know what should answer it. We were accused that he was the culprit, that he was doing that. I do not know. I mean, it's hard for me to speak about this, okay? But it was pretty bad for us to hear that this boy who was so sensitive and nice and, and loving and kind, he was accused to be the one who's doing this to other boy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you ask me the question, I guess God leads, because I never were trying to tell the true story behind this. But no, there was, on the top of everything, he suffered, and also we were accused of raising our kid the wrong way. So, so it was a tough time, I'll just say.
The boy had always threatened him that if it was found out, he would blame Matthew. And he did.
Okay. So, April, what was your reaction when you found out about your son?
Just heartbroken.
Yeah. How did you feel as a parent?
I felt protective of him because it was so devastating for him. Just the pain of, and the relief of it finally ending.
And on top of everything, there was basically another burden on as a parent, on the parents, because child suffers, but we also had to handle the weight of that. We have Isabella on our hands with such a terrible disease, and now we had to deal with this. So it was another thing that coming out of our head, on top of us as a parent, from the parent's perspective. So it was something we really didn't need to have, but we had to handle that.
It just seems like things got more and more complicated.
Yeah, during the 14 months, it was like from one. Like
it was survival.
It's survival mode completely,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
That's what you told me. You just felt like all you were doing was just trying to survive.
And helping our kids survive,
Right.
And we try. I had to give credit to April that she was trying to embrace the whole situation, give Matthew time to take him, to the hospital to spend time with mommy. And Isabella requires special tender care of every evening to put her to bed, but she always tried to go and at least, have a prayer with him and kiss him goodnight. But he felt that because it was not easy. The whole dynamic of the home was not easy because of a constant pain and constant stress. The stress that on you is felt by kids, right? There's no something that are immune to stress and anything like this. So it was tough.
I'm sure.
And with that stress, Matthew felt that it was his job to make everyone happy. He didn't want to add to the stress, and I didn't realize he was feeling that way until I was tucking him into bed one night, and I was telling him, sweetie, if you ever feel sad or upset, or let mommy know so we can talk about it. It's not just about Isabella, make sure you tell me. And he said, oh no, my job is to make everybody happy. And
he actually
felt,
said that.
Yes, he felt that responsibility.
Okay.
And he said, oh, no, my job is to make everybody happy. I said, oh, no, sweetie, that's not your job. I want you to tell me when you're having, problems. And it just broke my heart that he felt that responsibility on him.
Right.
So he wasn't bringing up his needs because he didn't want to add to the stress and the load.
No, he made it clear his job was to make everybody else happy. I want to go a little fast forward to when he actually shared that he was struggling with LGBT attraction. And who was it that he spoke to?
I mean, at the very beginning, he was sharing this with us.
Yeah.
With both
And
of
it
you.
wasn't really a coming out. It was I think I'm this way. And we thought, well, he was very young. He was 12, 13. And we thought he maybe was just confused.
Did he actually say it? Did he say, I feel like I'm gay?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember if he used the word, but I think probably he used the word because that was what was being used in the
I think that
circle
came
of
later
friends.
when he was coming to academy. That I was looking for signs of manhood in him. Okay, because Daddy. I remember my childhood. I remember how was I behaving sexually at his age. I didn't see that in him.
Attraction towards girls,
Yes,
you mean?
attraction to girls.
Crushes
crushes. I have my first crush when I was 8 years old, and and I was expecting that my boy is going to do the same, but I didn't hear it. But I learned from my friends that there are guys who are late bloomers. I didn't realize that, but they are late bloomers. And my friend said, hi, man, I was 16 before I even looked at the girls. So I said, okay, that's maybe something. But,
Basically, at the age of about 12, and between 12 and 13, was when his mental health started spiraling and into very bad depression, really bad anxiety, sometimes suicidality. And so it was kind of alarming how quickly he started spiraling down. At the same time, his sister was dealing with the same thing because of the after effects of all the trauma she had been through.
Right.
She had received an amazing physical miracle at camp meeting, a healing, but the emotional effects, really, PTSD and all of that. So she was dealing with similar mental health issues as he was. So it was kind of juggling the mental health needs of both of the kids. And so Matthew, we got him in with Dr. Nedley, we got him into therapy and medication for a short time.
So, April, what I really want is I really want to tap into how you were feeling, and these details, are pretty tough. But as a mother, as a Christian, what was going through your mind and your heart with all of these things going on with your daughter and also with your son?
With what was going on with Matthew when he started.
Nope, with you.
Oh, with me. Well, I'm getting to that, but in regards to Matthew and what he was going through, I was so fearful of that being true because it had actually been one of the worst fears I had ever had from before I had children. I just thought I can't imagine dealing with that as being a parent.
Wow.
Just because if they were to remain faithful to the Bible and their relationship with God, I knew what a hard journey that could be. And I just thought, wow, I always had great empathy for anyone going through that struggle long before I became a parent, just because it just seemed like such an unfair, hard struggle. And so the thought that he could be that way just filled me with a lot of fear, and kind of wanting to think, well, maybe he's just confused. Maybe it's not true. I just wanted it not to be true.
Right.
At one point, he decided, well, he didn't decide. He told me that I think I'm bisexual because he thought that would be easier on me. He knew he wasn't attracted to girls, but he thought that would be easier for me. He was always protecting us.
So it seems that he definitely is very careful about exposing you to different things. He wants to protect you or to not keep these things. So, was there a certain level of honesty with Matthew? With what was he able to feel like he could express whatever he was going through? Did he feel like he had to temper the information?
I feel like at the beginning, I felt there was quite a bit of honesty. I think as he expressed earlier in his testimony, when he went to Academy, he just wanted it to go away, and he just kind of pushed it all to the back of his mind and tried to be, normal, asking girls to the banquet, and just even we thought he might have a crush on a girl because he just tried to blend in as much as possible. And during that time of his years at Academy, the fears started kind of going to the back of my mind too, because he seemed to be doing okay. And I wanted it to be okay, and he wasn't talking about it. And so I thought, well, maybe it was just some confusion. Maybe he's, a late bloomer, like Tomek said. And so when he was at Academy, I don't think he wasn't as forthcoming because he didn't even want to be forthcoming with himself. He wanted it to just be gone.
I want to address something that was really pivotal in the story as we were sharing a few weeks ago. And Tomek, as best as you can, will you describe to me how there was this change in the dynamics in the relationship with your son?
We had a crisis in my relationship with Matthew in the past. Before that, I can't remember how old
It
was
was during the stress of Isabella's time, and that had an effect on your relationship.
We could not find it. I am being raised anybody who's raised brings that how you were raised to your life. Yes. So I was very critical. I was not understanding, not necessarily about the issue of this, but any issues. So we men do not want to be fixed. Okay, if somebody tells me go to therapy, I said no, because this is not what men do. Men do not want to go to therapy. And therefore, I resisted for a long time, but then actually, because they were going to the therapy, Isabella and Matthew, and were finding that there was healing for them, I decided that I'll go for it, and together with Matthew, the therapist, and we're going to resolve the issues, and it really tremendously helped our relationship. So all the dads who listen, if you have deals with the problems with your sons or daughters, and you think that therapy doesn't work because you can fix yourself, because we men fix ourselves, you know you can't. And it's really worthwhile for you to go there and to get the help. And this has really changed our relationship. Matthew can testify about it, 180 degrees.
So, Tomek, describe to me then what the relationship was like with your son afterwards.
Oh, we have many things to talk because we have the same interest. I was trying to make more time for him. We talked, not kind of, treating him like a, tiny boy, but I said, let's talk about technology. I know, but then I knew more than he does now. But now
But then he passed you.
Yeah, he passed me now. So we kind of talk about all the things I try not to stop him to talking about. Of course, we had our problems, but still we're trying to keep the conversation going, okay? And saying, you have something to say? I'm listening. I'm not going to do, being on the computer, just, okay, tell me what you want to tell me. Okay, even though for me, I am very much
Focused on
things. I had to make a special, way. And that we found many topics to talk about. But there was never talk about anything beside, in the sense of relationship, or no.
You mean the LGBT?
LGBT, yeah. So there was just this, but we have a very good, I can say by now that we have a very good relationship in everything else.
I find that so valuable, and it's such a little thing, and I don't think that a lot of people really appreciate that relationship between a father and his son. I know that I felt a lot of rejection, and I remember when I was about 16 and 17 years old, I remember my father would reach out occasionally, and my attitude about that was too little, too late. And what I find remarkable is that at this time, you did reach out, and you were able to bond with your son, and it did change. I think that what it did is it provided some stability or something for Matthew either to return to, or at least this more open communication with you that he didn't necessarily have before. It didn't mean that his struggles went away, but it did seem like he had at least more support. The Bible says that iron sharpens iron, and the countenance of a man, right, affirms another. And so it's such a simple Bible verse, but the promise, I think, is really profound. And that really touched me when you shared that really started to change your relationship with Matthew. And so did Matthew's problems automatically disappear?
No. So as he said in his testimony earlier, he tried to stuff it back in academy. But the more he stuffed it back, the more depressed and anxious he became, severe anxiety.
But before that was that he was trying to tell the world that he is different.
And he found out real
acceptance.
quick that there was repercussions to telling people.
So he said, no, I don't want to do it. And it was pretty, we know we do not want to say everything, to everybody, who we are, because the world does not understand us. And of course, when you say that I am like I am, then what's going to happen? Even what he was saying in testimony, even the worst part was in the environment of the church. People reject him in the church setting. Outside, maybe not so much. But in the church settings, people said, no, this is wrong, God punish you, you're going to go to hell, and things like this. And so he learned pretty quickly, several months before he realized that he needs to stop doing that.
So what I want to do again, April, please don't look at your notes, because I want to tap in to your feelings and your emotions. We talked a lot about Matthew and where he's at. During this time, when you thought it magically went away, or were you afraid that it might come back up? And then when it came back up, what were you going through? What was in your heart and your mind as a Christian and as a mother?
Yeah. So the first 3 years of when he was in academy, it was just kind of silence on the subject. And then the beginning of his senior year, the first home leave, when he came home for the weekend, we had one of our, I call them just precious time of late night talks with your children. You're going to take that. It's my security blanket. And so during that late night talk time that we were having, I realized he was kind of very much guiding the conversation, and I knew something he was going somewhere, and I wasn't quite sure where. And he just started really talking about the relationship with God that he had found, because in his junior year he had found a very real personal relationship with God, and that had brought pretty much an end to his depression and anxiety.
And what was your response? I really want to tap in to the parents
Yes.
because we're really speaking to parents
Right.
out there.
So he guided the conversation, first emphasized that God was, and his relationship with God was the most important thing in his life. He did that to try to prepare me for what was coming next, because he knew that would help me to have that assurance. And then he gradually introduced the fact that he realized for sure, that he was gay. And he's telling me very gently, very protectively, and I held it together, but I couldn't keep my entire body from shaking. And
That's right.
it was, my whole body was just vibrating, and he said, "Well, yes." And I was holding it together, but my body was giving me away. And he's like, "It's okay, Mama, it's okay." And he said, "My relationship with God is the most important thing in my life." But he just told me all about, what had happened in the change with his mental health, because he had acknowledged it and he had surrendered it to God. He had stopped asking God to take it away and ask him to have his will in his life, just with including that.
I'm sorry, April, but I really want to press on that top or that hot button for you. I want to know how you felt while you're shivering. What's going through your mind?
Oh, your mind is just racing. It was just like your worst fears that you hoped had gone away, were coming in. But I was also, I had peace in the fact that I knew he was walking with God.
Okay.
That was what made it bearable.
Okay.
And when I say bearable, it's just because I knew the hardship of the journey, what that would mean, and I knew how much relationships meant to him, and how much he would want to have a relationship someday, and what this would mean to that. And so there was a lot of pain and fear coming from that, and yet there was a peace mixed in only because I knew his relationship with God.
So would you say that your faith really kind of carried you through that
Oh,
time?
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right.
And just seeing his faith. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, very interesting, because there's a lot of different parts to that. Saying that he's gay, but also Christian. Were you thinking that he was, buying into the ideology that God was okay with?
No, at that point, he was just determined to follow God's word. He told me that. He was determined to study it out for himself. He didn't want to just take what anybody said. He wanted, and in the coming months after that, I could tell that he was definitely studying into it, and he was hoping there was a way that the monogamous gay relationship might be okay scripturally. And but then he came to the conclusion at that point that it wasn't, and he was determined to follow God.
So hang on, April.
Okay.
I just keep pushing right on that bruise. While he's going through all of this, what is your attitude? What's going on
A lot of prayer.
in your life? Okay.
A lot of prayer.
Talk to me about that.
Prayer is what carried us through all of this. I would say, before Isabella's medical crisis, I was very much a Christian and solid Adventist and prayed, but I didn't have a prayer life that even comes close to resembling what we have today and what we developed through all of those crises. And I have these little prayer and promise cards. They're little like credit cards shaped, sized, laminated on a little ring. By the way, I made about 6 of those sets and brought them here to give to any parents who might like them. They have promises you can claim over your children, and then a prayer related to the promise on the other side.
great.
I always said I was glad they were laminated, because they would have been ruined with all the tears that I cried over those. I would spend so much time claiming promises over my children, and I still do, and praying for them.
Okay, so, Tomek, how about for you? What were you going through during this time?
For me, there was still quiet because the conversation happened between both of them, but I was not aware and I was never told.
For a while.
For a school year, right?
For a whole year.
Yes, so I was not aware. They were their secret. And
Okay, I need to explain that.
exactly, so maybe she can tell why.
So when Matthew talked to me, he said he didn't want to tell Daddy yet. He so treasured the relationship that they had built, and he was so afraid that this might somehow ruin it. He didn't expect his dad to like come down hard on him.
Right, hang on. So, Tomek, I want to ask you, if Matthew would have shared that with you, what do you think would have been your response? Was he accurate? Would it have changed your relationship with him?
I cannot say because God knows the timing, okay? How would I react to his information then? I have no idea. But I can tell you what's happened when he told me that later. At that point, I don't know. I don't know because there was like, what would if happen? But because, as I said, God's timings, God knows what the best timing is to receive.
It was the timing of him telling his dad also got delayed because a couple of months after our conversation, Tomek was diagnosed with a large brain tumor. He had to have surgery. And it was a long, painful recovery. And so there was a lot already on him, and Matthew wasn't about to add to the stress.
Wow.
So that did interrupt the process, too.
So I thought you guys were like this normal, happy family. And I mean, you have all of these things just coming into your family.
Well, actually, the year that Matthew's mental health crisis started, I told you, I keep forgetting that this even happened, but I came down with breast cancer, had to have surgery and all. That hardly registers in my memory because there was so much going on with the kids.
Wow.
And that was just kind of a side thing.
The devil was really attacking you, not only from the health perspective, but also from within your family, your daughter's health, your husband's health, your son's mental health, right? And identity. All right, so anyway, the devil is already defeated. And what I want to talk about now is when I saw you at camp meeting a year and a half ago, and you were absolutely thrilled. I mean, April, I don't think that you could have stopped smiling when you came to our meetings there at the Carolina camp meeting.
Now we're gonna fast forward and then go back to when
Well, we have 4 minutes.
Okay, about him telling his daddy. Did you want to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay, so every month when Matthew would come home from home leave his senior year, I'd be like, "Are you ready to tell Daddy?" Well, then the surgery happened and the brain tumor and all that. But then when we got more in the spring, I said, "Sweetie, you really need to tell Daddy. I'm not used to keeping secrets from Daddy, but this is your story to tell." So it was kind of a heavy weight to hold, not telling him. But he just didn't want to, and not ready yet. Graduation came. He graduated, came and spent the summer at home. The day before he was to leave for college, I said, "Matthew, time's up. You need to talk to your daddy." And he knew. He just couldn't quite step over that line. And I said, "Do you want me to be with you, or do you want to tell him on your own?" He said, "No, you come with me." So we went into his office, and the picture in my mind will be there forever. Matthew was sitting on the couch. He said, "Daddy, I need to talk to you." So Tomek knew something was up, but I don't know how much you thought was happening. And I sat on the couch a little ways down from Matthew, and Tomek was sitting on the floor across from the couch right in front of Matthew, a little ways away.
April, I have 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I need to stop with the details.
I call it picking the flowers.
Yes,
Picking the
okay.
flowers.
So Matthew started telling his daddy, and I had prayed before this because I knew that his first reaction might not be his best reaction, and I knew how impactful his first reaction would be for Matthew. And so I'd really prayed that God would just be flowing through Tomek.
Okay.
And Matthew started telling him, and immediately broke down into sobs.
Who
Matthew.
did? Okay.
Which he hadn't done with me. He'd been protective of me. He became a little boy again when he started telling his daddy. And he said, "I'm so sorry. I don't want to be this way. I'm so sorry." And he was sobbing. And his daddy crawled on his hands and knees across the floor to the couch and just wrapped him in his arms and just said, "I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what." And just said that over and over as he held his sobbing boy. It to me was a picture of Christ. It was just pure love, and I knew it was just flowing through Tomek from the Holy Spirit.
Tomek, we do know how you would have responded because that is what you did. Is that amazing, folks? What kind of compassion to just wrap your arms around your son as he was sobbing, and no judgment, no criticism, just embracing your son, that's a really powerful moment. I'll give you 3 extra minutes for that one. That was really good. So okay, so take us quickly as you
Yes.
can, and because there's
Yes.
so much missing.
I know.
All right, help me, April.
Fast forward a year.
Okay.
During that summer, no, not that summer. Okay, so fast forward a year, and we had been on a 3-week trip to Poland. We came back. We didn't know during the time we were gone that Matthew had gone through the sexual assault and a complete reconversion experience, because he had kind of wandered away from his determination to follow God, and had, through friends' encouragement, he had decided to try stepping into
Were
the
you aware
dating
of
world.
that?
We knew nothing.
Okay.
It had just kind of evolved into drinking and marijuana and dates, and he really had just gotten sucked into it.
Right.
Still with his prayer life and praying, but wanting to try this too, because his friends were telling him, this is just who you are, just embrace it.
Okay.
And then the sexual assault had brought him to the darkest place of his life. And during that time, as he said this morning, he opened Instagram. A friend had put something about her relationship with God and how it changed everything. And God spoke to him through that post. And he just got down on his knees and asked and said, I'm just giving this to you. I can't live like this anymore. Wow. So when we came back from Poland, we knew nothing of any of that. And we met him we went to the Carolina Conference Camp meeting just a couple of weeks later, but we saw something was very different. Mm-hmm. There was a deep walk with God that had evolved.
Okay.
And he was wanting to go to all the meetings. He wanted to go to your meetings. Coming Out Ministries was there. He'd never wanted to go to those meetings before when you had been
Right,
there before.
right.
This time he was
But
eager
you
to
were
go.
always
I was
there.
always trying to,
You
yes.
were always
yes.
there.
I tried to ask him to go, but he wasn't ready yet. This time he wanted to go. He wanted to go to all the meetings, and I just saw a blossoming relationship with God. And so
April,
yes, I
hang on.
kind of dragged him to you.
You did. You dragged him to me. Here, Matthew, this Gucci. And it was so funny that his reaction was, you could tell it was kind of like a cat just kind of pulling it like, whoa.
I was so excited because I could see the relationship with God that was just blossoming,
yeah.
and that he was coming to all the meetings, and that was the beginning of continual growth. The following summer was just growth in God, and his relationship with God has deepened ever since.
Yeah, as Matthew was willing to interact with us, and I think that that's really powerful. Please remember, you can't push or force somebody any faster than they can go on their own, and I think it's really important to nurture that, but to remember, Jesus doesn't drive, he draws, and you were doing that, and when he felt comfortable, he contacted us, and that's our MO. We don't force people, we don't drag people kicking and screaming to the cross.
Mamas are the only ones that do that.
It has to be their choice, that's right. And so what was really great is Matthew did share with me his experience, and then he spoke for us at Southern, and he got involved with a unofficial group there at Southern for people that struggle with SSA, which is same-sex attraction, and that are wanting, sexual purity. And as he was involved in that group, Daniel Varela was also living in the Chattanooga area. And I remember, it's funny, I'm just fast-forwarding this. Matthew made a decision that he was going to be like Daniel and just celibate for the rest of his life, because he didn't have attractions, and he basically kind of cooled your jets and said, don't expect anything, right?
Oh, I wasn't expecting anything. I didn't want to get my hopes up. I just wanted him to be in a relationship with God.
Ah, beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I had thought, well, this is just, this is going to be hard, but if he stays hand in hand with God, it'll...
So then something miraculous happened.
Shocking, really. None of us were expecting it, but at the beginning of this summer, he met a young lady at our church, and she had wanted to learn how to swim. So he said, I can teach you how to swim, and met her at our pool, and they started talking, and they never stopped talking. There was just an instant connection of friendship. And he thought, it's friendship. But very, very quickly, he started feeling something he'd never felt for a girl before. And they've been dating for almost 3 months now. And he said that it was like a switch flipped in him. And
he was saying, like this morning, he said it felt natural. For me as a father, it was kind of, looking at the history of the LGBT people and in 50s, 60s, and earlier, how often they married to fit. And there was my fear that he's trying to push himself to relationship because he wants to fit, and it's going to break hearts. And
That was his fear initially.
And it was
yeah.
like, okay, no, you don't have to do that. But he said it felt for him that if he has attraction, maybe to be the only woman he's attracted to. Okay, which I'm fine, and she'll be happy too if there's only one woman she's attracted to. This recipe for a good marriage forever, for everyone, for every kind of marriage. So this for me, it was like, okay, I'm fine with this.
It became
And praise
evident
the
very
Lord.
quickly that it was very real.
Beautiful.
My mom likes to say you'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to not see the chemistry between those two and to
Wow,
see
that's
that it's
beautiful.
real.
That's beautiful. Well, it's interesting because Daniel Varela, a year ago, was also dating Kirsten, and now they're married, and now they're here working with Coming Together Ministries. So, Matthew, in a year, we expect an update, okay? Thank you. Yeah. No pressure from Daniel. Did you hear that? Listen, I want to thank you, and I want to close. And I know that we've gone over. I hope that I'm forgiven. But what would you say to a parent that has a child that is either embracing it or going down a road that you can see could be very dangerous for them? What kind of advice? How would you encourage a parent?
Your biggest weapon is prayer and love and maintaining relationship. But be a prayer warrior for them. And don't try to pray the gay away. I was always very careful not to pray, oh, take this away, make him straight. I prayed that he would find a relationship with God, because from that comes every other good thing.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Beautiful.
We're trying not to micromanage God. How often we try to micromanage God in our prayers, saying, do this, do this, do this. And exactly this is a recipe for peace on earth, in a sense. Let God win the battles for us. And
Let God win the
only
battle.
embrace it and let God work. We cannot do much in this situation, but let's God pray over the children, claim the promises, like April says, claim the promises. God has his timing, and he will pull people to himself.
There's
Beautiful.
power in claiming promises over your child.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. All right, very good. I'd like to have a closing prayer as we end. Matthew, do you mind standing up? Your mom wants everyone to see who you are. There you go. Isn't that amazing? Hallelujah. Is God good? All right. All right, I'll pray. Father in heaven, thank you, Lord, for these amazing stories. And Lord, it gives me hope, it inspires me, and it enlightens us, Lord, to let us know that we need to step aside and allow you to do the work. And what you ask us to do is to create this safety net of love, Lord. And as we surround them with love, and I think of Tomek and his arms around his son as he sobbed out the words that he was gay. Lord, what a beautiful image, and that is when you work. We don't have to judge them. We don't have to harp at them and throw these Bible verses at them, but rather, Lord, to love them and allow you to speak to them. And that's the only way that it works. And so, Lord, I pray that you would be with those families that are listening. I also pray, Lord, that you be with the Pakula family and Matthew and this new relationship. And, Lord, we look forward to some amazing stories in the very near future. And we thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.